please welcome Vice President of Sales for Footprint, Joost Bax. Did I say it correctly? Joost.
Well pronounced.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. So in the next 20 minutes, I will give you an introduction to Footprint, what we do, how we do it, where we do it, but also why we do it. And I will stand still a little bit extra with the why, because that will explain the immense opportunity we have in front of us. But in essence, we are going to disrupt the plastic packaging industry, which I think is quite exciting. Here we go. So what are we all about? So Footprint is all about eradicating single-use plastics with packaging made of wood fiber. That is what we do. And we design, develop, and manufacture those solutions ourselves. So we control the whole ecosystem. And if I'm saying it like this, right, it sounds really easy. But when you dive a little bit deeper, it starts with design. Designing the product in such a way that it runs smoothly on the lines of our customers, as efficiently as plastic. That's a challenge by itself. Then at development, we need to make a product which mimics the properties of plastic that is made out of a natural material, which, if you look at it through a microscope, is like a bird's nest. And lastly, we manufacture the items, and we are competing against the plastic industry, who has been around for 60 years and is highly efficient. So adding those three, it's like a very interesting, complex dynamic. If that is done, it's all about sales, and I understood from McWin yesterday, that's the most easy part. So that's my job, by the way. So what do we do? Well, first of all, why? And I will elaborate a little bit more later on. We know that plastic bowls or trays or whatsoever, they contain toxic element that leach into your food, that in the end enter into your body, which affect your health. I will not dive any deeper now. Secondly, and this is a US number, by the way, only 9% in the US of plastic is recycled. 91% ends up in landfill or in the environment. In Europe, it's like 50-50. So we design solutions with the Footprint barrier technology that reduce or eliminate the need to use plastic packaging, because we work on oxygen barriers, water barriers, and oil barriers. So that is exactly what we do. Now I want to show you one video. So I don't know how this video makes you feel, but when I saw this one for the first time, it made me feel quite unreal, right? Unsettled even. And it's not just a one-off picture, right? It's all over the globe, and it's happening as we speak. And I think it makes way more impact than all the statistics I've put next to this slide, which are all about 8 million pieces of plastic in the ocean every day, 12 million tons every year, more than 5 trillion macro and microplastics in the ocean, and animals getting killed because they think plastic is food. So it is really polluting the oceans in a very bad way. And that's in fact one of the elements you can call the plastic disaster. By the way, after this slide is getting better. Okay, so first of all, the plastics are a leading cause of ocean pollution. You've already seen that. Secondly, it's a top 5 CO2 and greenhouse gas emitter as an industry. Thirdly, and that's interesting knowledge in fact, the plastic, when it's, let's say, in the environment, it starts to biodegrade. Everything can biodegrade, by the way. Plastic takes 300 years. When it biodegrades, it starts to release microplastics. These microplastics, they end up in the food chain, so in fish, in animals, you name it. And in the end, they end up in us. The University of Amsterdam did a study, and they found out that 2/3 of the research population had microplastics in their blood. So microplastics of PET, which is just soft drink bottles, polyethylene, which are parts of shopping bags, or polystyrene, which are parts of food trays. So we, well, not all of us, but most of us have elements of very tangible plastic elements in our blood. The bad thing is, it affects our health. For instance, babies have 10 times more microplastics in their feces than an adult, which of course is shocking to hear. And lastly, microplastics do affect the fertility of men. So it is quite an urgent problem we face. And because the problem is so big, there needs to be a big change. And that's the other side of the medal. It's exactly where planet meets profit. That's where we play. This addressable market you see is for the top 100 companies, Fortune, in the US. So if you look at the total market worldwide, you can easily multiply it by 3. In this total addressable markets, we see 3 segments: rigid, beverage and bottles, and flexible plastics. Currently, we as an organization are focused on replacing the rigid plastics. I will show the examples in a minute. Let's say that's the first addressable market we want to attack. Next one will be the flexible ones, and last one will be all about beverages and bottles. And it's a huge market, as you can see. And we have put the names of the bigger companies next to it, because what is interesting is we need those companies to make an impact when it comes to the environment, because they have scale. They need us because we are building skill which can satisfy their needs for production. That's one. And thirdly, they have the consumers and these very specific propositions that can benefit from a sustainable alternative. So they are ideal launching customers for us, and we are working with them as we speak. But it's not only just us and our customers who are willing to make a change. It is really driven from a consumer perspective. Consumers are asking for solutions. They stand by those companies who make a stand to societal issues. They champion those brands which fit to their values and behaviors. And lastly, they prefer to buy from those companies that are, let's say, sustainable or have a very positive way of handling matters. So it's really driven by consumer attitudes. And lastly, but not, for sure not least important, there is legislation coming all over the world. It's US, it's Europe with the Single-Use Plastic Directive. The UN is working on legislation on single-use plastics. It's happening in Africa, Asia, it's all over the world. And the good thing about legislation change is that it's building an enormous urgency with any manufacturer to change. Because, well, you can delay an introduction, right? But you cannot delay a legislation. So there's also a legislation tailwind for us. So now I've painted the picture of, let's say, the situation we are in. And now the question is, what are we doing to play an important role in this environment? First of all, it's all about scale. We're having production facilities in Mexicali, which is close to the border of Arizona, where the headquarters is based, and also the pilot plant of 1.5 million square feet, which is an enormous factory. We are building one in Poland, which will be up and running starting May next year, which will be 500,000 square feet, which is already sold out for 70% to one specific customer. So we are really looking for scale, but we are getting the scale as we speak. Then it's all about scale, but also what are you going to produce on those production lines? Well, that is all how we build our technologies. First, it starts with the raw material. We predominantly source wood fiber because it's easily accessible both in the US and in Europe. If you go to China, you would see way more bamboo and bagasse because it's widely available over there. And what I already stated is, if you blend the fibers, it's like a bird's nest. So it doesn't have any barrier properties. So you really need to fill the holes with, well, let's call it the secret sauce of footprint. It's based on chemicals, it's based on natural materials, which give the fibers a structure, which either gives a water barrier, to put it simple, an oxygen barrier, or an oil barrier. That's what we do. If we have done that, then it's not done there. Also, the forming is part of the differentiating angle of footprint. It's really easy for fiber molding to have thin products or undeep products, so to say, like a plate or maybe even a straw. But it's way more difficult to go deeper, like with a 16-ounce or 20-ounce cup. And that is something we are mastering as we speak. So it's not just about technology, it's also about the way we manufacture it, and we have to manufacture it, of course, in a very efficient way, as already explained. And lastly, it's also about downstream equipment, oven, It is all about printing, it's about automation, which needs to be reinvented for the industry because it's a fairly new industry to start with. So innovation happening in many places at the same time, hugely interesting. So now about our technologies. In which areas are we already playing a role? And as I already explained, we have started in the US. Most of these technologies are being utilized in the US. For crossing to Europe, you need to do some other stuff to be food safe in Europe. So we're doing it gradually in a very focused way. We have started out with frozen, with Conagra, which is a leading manufacturer of frozen goods in the US. We have achieved a 12-month shelf life with them. We would say, well, if something is frozen, it's easy to keep it good. The fiber needs to make sure that no moisture, no fat is extracted from the food while frozen. That worked. I will be a little bit more elaborate later on. We have supermarket trays or produced trays, which are used for, let's say, mushrooms, paprika. You mentioned it, and supermarket trays for meat. Those need to withstand, let's say, the moisture, the humid temperatures, cold, heat of the whole supply chain, and still remain rigid. Obviously, we have cracked that because otherwise it would not be on this slide. Ready to eat, we have solutions that can be in the oven or in a microwave up to 200 degrees. It's a product made of wood, so it's quite challenging to have a wood product in an oven for over 10 minutes, over 200 degrees. Shelf-stable cups, shelf stable for 12 months. That's together with, I think, General Mills. Cups and lids and quick service, that is a really interesting place for us to play. And there's also a place where McWin and Foodprint really have synergies. Because as you all know, McWin is quite heavy in the restaurant industry. And the restaurant and quick service industry are a mass consumer of single-use plastic. If you just walk into any takeout restaurant or quick service restaurant, you can count the single-use plastic they use, right? It's all about straws, lid, cups, clamshells. It is endless. So for us, it's a perfect customer. And that's why teaming up with McWin is really beneficial to us. One thing about the cups and the lids, that is a small item, you could say, but we will be the only ones that can produce this type of cups without using any plastic or polymers, being able to address an 80 billion unit market in Europe, so which is quite interesting. So even, let's say, you can call small markets are hugely interesting for us. These are the customers we are currently working with in all these various categories. And as you can see, and the top line mostly are the category leaders in those segments. And we are working with them. Sometimes it's in relative small project or in early stages. And some of them we are really scaling and producing hundreds of millions of products for them. I will show 2 examples in a minute. And this is also to show what I already explained, that we're gravitating towards these bigger customers. We need them for scale. We don't want to have the smaller customers. It really sounds arrogant, but it doesn't help our business and it doesn't help the environment as well. And for instance, for Gillette, that's not, let's say, our standard customer. It's more the industrial type of customer. We are producing those holders for the razors, which are traditionally in plastic, which are being replaced by those fiber molded products we produce. This is an overview of what McWin has McWin in their portfolio. The green check marks are the ones where we already have been engaging with, thanks to the work of Martin as well. And what the good thing is about working with McWin from a commercial perspective is they introduce at the right level. You immediately get to have strategic discussions and you get to the point quite immediately how to do business, but you also generate fantastic insight from the portfolio companies on how they're working with our competitors, what pricing they have, because they're really open to share information with us. And there's also to show appreciation to the work that McWin is doing for us. So, well, I will give you one example, which is about Conagra, which I touched upon already before. This customer asked us for a product to replace plastic, hot fill, flash freeze, 18-month shelf life, no oil water barrier, dual ovenable, taste integrity, bio-based, recyclable, compostable. That is a big ask. Obviously, we cracked it, otherwise, well, we wouldn't stand here. This was a major breakthrough for Foodprint when launching in the US. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. We're now selling to them 190 million units, and they are the leading customer for us. The interesting thing is they extracted the value of sustainability and they translated it to the market. They have gained 24% of sales. They have attracted new customers because the new generation, the young generation, the millennials, are really open for these type of solutions. So it's not just about replacing, it's also about extracting additional value from the market. So in short, well, we are well positioned to tap into the environmental sustainability situation that's currently at. I've been showing you that. We do have scale. We are building the factories as we go, and we do have the funds to do so. There are interesting synergies to be gained on working with McWin. And well, the expansion into Europe starting in May next year will give us a great exposure in the European Union and outside to even grow more outside of the US. So that's the story of Footprint. Thank you for your attention.